Welcome into the Zoneheads podcast. I'm Brandon. He's Zach. We have we have brackets that have been absolutely demolished. As chalky as it is, still can't get this shit right. It's the way that it is. But an important message off the rip before we get into any of the details. Zach wearing his gator print shirt, looking fly as ever. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in a home in Central Florida, you need a realtor who not only knows the market but has experience in protecting your investment. Meet Kevin Crager with LPT Realty, one of the top 25 producing agents in Central Florida. When it comes to real estate, people, listen up. Experience matters. Trust Kevin Crager to guide you every step of the way. 407-702-4635. I'm throwing the banner on before I forget. I skimped my guy last week. Oh, look at that. It's blue. I don't even know how to do that. It's just blue now. Used to be black. We learn every week. So
at least we know we can rely on Kevin, unlike our brackets. Like Kevin, I don't have any concerns about. If I have to bet anymore on March Madness, that's a different ball game, bro.
It's been rough. It has been. This might be, at least the first 10 minutes of today's episode might just be a therapy session and kind of like, all right, let's step back. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's figure out exactly what our process needs to be moving forward, because it is rough out here in these streets. But as a wise man once said, I don't know who it is. I don't know who to credit for this, Zach, but somebody out there should be credited for it. You either win or you learn. And right now I'm doing a lot of learning. A whole lot. Me, Albert Einstein up in here. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice or in the delirium of the cold medicine that I'm on, but I'm either sick, fighting something off. I think I've inhaled about 8 pounds of pollen in the last 2 days. So I don't know if I need cold medicine or just to lock myself inside, but your boy is not rocking at 100% today. And it's a big day today, because after this, I then will enter into prep mode for the Magic and the Lakers. It's Dwight Howard Hall of Fame day.
Oh, no.
And then at the end of the night, when all of that is over, I have an episode of Buckets at 11:15. So full day today, show to get ready for. Magic game, one of the biggest of the season. And I'm at like 65% at best.
You need one of those limitless pills, bro. That's it, from the Bradley Cooper movie. Like, that's the only thing. There's nothing out there. There's no concoction. There's no like mixture you can come up with. And trust me, I've tried a lot of them in my life. But for the day that you got in front of you, brother, you're just gonna have to power through. Like, it's gonna be one of those days where you gotta compartmentalize and play hurt, and then you're gonna feel that pain hard at some point, probably right before you go to sleep, but really when you open your eyes tomorrow. That's tough, man. But on the bright side, hopefully you get some dubs under your belt, and it's actually a good night. The last time the Magic honored somebody was Shaq last year. I came out. I was pumped. That was going to be such a fun time. I'm like, my guy BK is all suited with the crew. Everybody's having a good – they're giving out jerseys. I got a Shaq jersey in my closet.
I still have that one too.
Yep. I got stomped by the Thunder.
Yeah.
Gosh, man.
Well, the Thunder were a lot better than, in my opinion – the Lakers have not been bad, so this could definitely, this is not a guarantee by any measure, but the Thunder were better then than the Lakers are right now. The Lakers got LeBron back. They just got blasted by the Chicago Bulls. And I've been a firm believer since they made the trade for Luka. Great for the future of the LA Lakers. I don't think it does anything for them this year. I seem to be standing on an island with that take, because everybody else has them as a potential contender to make it to the finals. I don't see how they can do that. And they are starting to fall apart a little bit. The Magic match up well with them. I'm curious to see how this one goes. And it's not on national TV. That's where the Magic have really struggled. They finally got over the hump against Cleveland recently, but those national TV games have been rough. They don't just lose. They lose by at least 15 every single time. Finally got over that hump week from this past Sunday. And so that's good. But this game will just be on regular, regional sports networks.
Well, I'm excited for the Orlando faithful to be in the building. It
Yep.
should be a fun game regardless. The atmosphere should be a little bit raised, not quite playoff material, but like in terms of regular season games, y'all should feel the juice. We've also got, I'm not really going to talk about it today, opening day in baseball rolling around the corner for a lot of teams.
I'm
You got
pumped.
players complaining about robot umps. I'm like the least excited I think I've been for, and I've said this for months now with you, Brandon, on this podcast. This is the least excited I've been for baseball season. I'm pumped about the robot umps in general, just the fact that the MLB is trying to do things and move forward and whatever. But I have been like, it just feels so lackluster. The Rays Stadium stuff somehow has become more exhausting, which I didn't think was possible. They're going to be playing at Yankee Stadium. They're having trouble selling tickets, which I'm not shocked about. Shane McClanahan, their ace, one of the best pitchers in baseball, his arm's falling off again. He's not the only one. Look around the league. Like this Tommy John and the arm situation across the league again is already a nightmare for the league. And we haven't even had really first pitch start go out yet. So I wish I could be more pumped about baseball, but I'm just so heavy into to March Madness specifically, and then just starting to get ready for the playoffs for the NHL and NBA. That like it's just tough, man. I'm having a hard time getting into baseball seasons in this year, and it hurts my heart to say that.
Well, it sucks to hear that because I know what a massive baseball fan you are, and you have baseball in your market, unlike us. So yeah, when I get excited about it, I'm excited to watch the MLB package on my TV screen, which I did discover. I used to have to plug in a Fire Stick because my smart TV doesn't have the MLB app. But this is one of the benefits of impulse buying a PlayStation 5 last year is the PS5 does have the MLB app, so I'll be good there. But last year going into the season, I was so excited for my Baltimore Orioles. I genuinely thought they could make a run to the World Series. I feel like they've taken a slight step back, well, especially while the other teams around them, the Red Sox are better.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees they have that Garrett Cole issue, so they're at least the Yankees. They lost Soto, but they're still going to produce. And I feel like they've taken a step back rather than a step forward. We'll see what happens. I'm excited for baseball for a reason that will bring us right back to March Madness, because when I open up my Action Network app, and let me take my betting advice with a grain of salt, okay? But I think I have some wisdom in this brain of mine. My number one most profitable sport here, see, I track all of this stuff, every single bet that I make. I've been doing this since I think like right before COVID hit. Just give you a time frame on it. My most profitable sport is the NBA. My second most profitable sport is Major League Baseball. And I need to start winning some bets. So bring on the baseball. I've been really good at hitting these totals over the last year.
Okay.
So that's been I'm a Major League Baseball totals better. Love the unders and picking the right spots, looking at park factors and pitching matchups and what lineups can't hit and things like that. I kind of get geeked on that stuff. I have a process and I'm measured. Unlike the opening round of the NCAA tournament, where I turned back into a 19-year-old boy watching this tournament, where I'm just throwing bets out there just to be on them, which is the worst reason to bet. If you're actually trying to make money, if you're just a recreational bettor that doesn't care that when you put 200 in the account, if it's gone the next day, I'm not that person. I have more money than that in my account. I'm trying to grow it like a stock. And so that's a completely different mentality.
Yeah.
Yet I abandoned all of that for 2 days. And I'm slightly disgusted with myself. And that's the learning that I talk about. And I think part of it, Zach, when you look at what happened in round one, what didn't we get? Two things that I wanted to see and that we usually get, which is upsets. So I'd have some money sprinkled on a big underdog on the money line and their spread. Neither would hit. And I favor defense this time of year. I've done some digging on some numbers that prove that is not a good formula anymore, at least not for this season. So that's where I'm at. I have reshaped things, and I feel pretty good about my process moving forward. You either win or you learn, Zach. And again, doing a lot of learning these days.
Yeah, I think the tough part for me in the first round, and I really did feel, I mean, I don't know if everybody felt this way, but I know a lot of my buddies similarly thought the first round was kind of a stinker just in general. Like no buzzer beaters, a lot of games that were kind of never really within reach for both of the teams involved. Um, and then no massive upsets. Like, and we talked about this even heading into the tournament last week. Some of the quote unquote lower seeds that won were favored. So I didn't enjoy the first round as much from a betting perspective or just from an excitement level. Now, like, don't get me wrong, having like 10 games going on at a time nonstop is still exhilarating, even if most of them are not close. But just generally speaking, the first round didn't really do it for me like it has in the past. And something that I found myself falling into from a trap perspective, and I'll use one of the things we talked about heavily last Monday, is how like much we loved a team like VCU, right? VCU falls to BYU, who then wins their next game as well. And there was a lot of games like that where I liked both teams, and I was like, well, if this team wins, they're probably going to win the next game too. So it was almost like a BOGO deal. But on the flip side of that, if you pick the wrong team, and VCU is a great example, you lose both games in a row.
Yeah.
So I had multiple games like that where I knew that the upset team, Ole Miss was another one. I picked the Tar Heels to upset them, and then I was like, oh, I think UNC will win in the next round, which is what Ole Miss basically did. And it wasn't that I didn't like Ole Miss. I just happened to lean towards the Tar Heels in that situation. So my mindset was right, Brandon. I just feel like I was slightly off to the point where it made massive issues for me.
And for the people that really leaned into this, the transfer portal is going to ruin March Madness and Cinderella is dead. If that is the way that you approach this tournament, you got ahead of it rather than behind it. That's what a smart person does that bets on sports. And you probably came out on top because that's exactly what we saw. We have right now, let's see, the numbers are in. Hold on, I have this written down right here. The all Power Four schools right now in the Sweet 16, 7 SEC teams, and no seed 11 or lower. The only double-digit seed is Arkansas, and they're coached by John Calipari, and they have chicken money. So that's not a Cinderella story.
And they were missing their best player the last 2 months, who came back fully healthy for this tournament, in Boogie.
So not a Cinderella. Are you of the belief that Cinderella has died? Not to be so grim, but
I don't think
it does
so.
feel like that.
I don't think so. I mean, again, it's tough. We talked about heading into this tournament in general that it was going to be more chalky, that we liked the upper side of it more so than usual. I don't necessarily think that's the case. And listen, obviously, the end result is always going to be what matters most. But I mean, Colorado State almost had a buzzer beater win against Maryland last night, right? Like that would have been somewhat of a Cinderella. UC San Diego, was it San Diego? The UC team, right? That took Michigan to the wire. Like that was
They had a
fun
good
game.
look.
Like,
yeah,
bro. I mean, so like, again, ironically, my answer to that's the same thing I just said, Brandon. I feel like calibration wise, we were right there, and I feel like the tournament was close to being able to kind of be on tilt. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, like teams really just weren't getting it done. Again, including even a situation like Colorado State, Maryland, where the Rams were able to hit what you thought was a dagger three. Wasn't a buzzer beater, but you thought it was a dagger three, only to end up losing that game with about 3 seconds on the clock to the Crab Five, which is the best name, by the way.
It's fantastic. I had him going to the Sweet 16 just because of the Crab Five, so that name went a long way. That's a sentimental Sweet 16 because I was born in Maryland, grew up in Florida, so Florida, Maryland. It's really can't go wrong here with the result, other than the fact that I tailed you on the Gators to win the championship. It's kind of what I need at this point in order to make all the money back. Is for Florida. Yeah. Florida wins the championship, we'll be just fine. I mean, it's not that bad out here, but there's definitely lessons that have been learned. One of the things that I always value in any postseason is defense. And I think that that's where the edge lives because people are obsessed with offense. Give me the team that is better defensively, and I'll show you the winner when games start to tighten up. That has not been the case so far in this tournament. I looked at 14 of the 16 teams that remain in the NCAA tournament rank top 25 in offense. Only Michigan and Arkansas break that trend. But like you said, Arkansas probably breaks the trend because they're without one of their best players. So 14 of 16 are top 25 offenses, but only 10 of the 16 rank top 25 in defense. So it's not like defense doesn't matter. But in terms of making it to this point, the offensive production is much more predictive than the defensive production. And so that is something that, just with how much we've seen basketball change, I think you might be able to apply this to the NBA as well, but definitely in college basketball, where teams that are bad on offense this time of year, they have a tough time keeping up more than ever because of the three ball. I think bad offenses in the past could still find a way to keep it close, to create those comebacks. If you're not knocking down shots and the team you're going up against is hitting threes and they're really good at it, you're screwed. And that's why we saw, I did the math on the opening round. The average margin of victory in round one of this tournament was over 13 points per game.
Insane, dude.
It's crazy.
That's
But
crazy.
that's the three ball, and you got to be able to knock them down. And chances are, if you didn't do it going into the tournament, you weren't going to figure it out on the biggest stage of them all. So I would say one of the biggest lessons learned for me, I don't think Cinderella is dead. Maybe she's dying, but she's not dead. I think you gotta really lean into offense, especially early in the tournament. By the time you get to the end, that's when the best defenses will still be remaining, and maybe you can start to be a little bit more selective there. But that's definitely one of the lessons for me.
Yeah, and I mean, even back to like last year, right? I think about, was it Oakland with Golke? Like the dude was flushing buckets. And you think about a lot of the Cinderella teams that we've seen, it's not usually because they can go pound for pound. It's because they're usually shooting the hell out of the three ball. So I don't think that that's changed. I think specific to this year, you just didn't have any of those teams step up and have a night like we saw, again, using Golke and Oakland as last year's example, where you just have a player on the other team that's just stroking buckets. Now, there were games and players where like that kind of happened, but nothing historic, nothing that kind of turned the scales, even though everything else was against that team.
I want to give you one more that I found, because I've referenced Ken Palm in the past. It's not like
Yeah.
I don't laugh at it. It obviously is something that people that follow college basketball closer than me have relied on for years. But
Yep.
this is the first time that I've decided to take a real deep dive into the numbers and actually look at the website rather than just reading what other people say about Ken Palm. Just look at it and analyze it for myself. My God, is that predictive? At least this year. And I imagine if people are keep referencing it like it's the Bible, then there's got to be something to it. 9 of the top 10 in Ken Palm are still alive in the NCAA tournament. 9 of the top 10. 4 of the remaining 16 rank 11 to 20. Only Ole Miss, BYU, and Arkansas rank outside of the top 20 in terms of Ken Palm. So if that's the way that it is, look no further than that overall net rating when you are making your bracket, especially now when the best players at smaller schools are transferring to bigger schools. This stuff is only going to be more predictive. This is the kind of thing that I think we have to start to bake into our analysis.
You know, it's not just the players either. And that was something that like I feel was really refreshed for me in a reminder type of way. This tournament in the first couple of rounds, Brandon, were the coaches. The amount of coaches that I knew by like first and last name and could reference their entire career, but weren't at the schools that I knew them for, was like wild to me. Like just going across the board. And then it wasn't even just, you know, coaches that have shifted over. You got Patino's son with New Mexico last night, right? Like
Yep.
I just felt like I felt like the coaches, or they move, it feels like they move around more. And obviously, we're not going to deep dive into this, but anybody like that knows about what happened with the Indiana West Virginia situation and their new coach that they're bringing in from the Mountaineers, like that was messy. And it's not the only example. You have things like the Will Wade situation and some of the trouble that he got into. Then he goes to McNeese. Obviously, Patino's story to end up at St. John's, like after being a championship caliber guy at Louisville and Kentucky, like it's insane. It's insane. And he coached Cal at Arkansas to bring them back into the mix. So it's wild to me. And I saw one of the Miller brothers, I think Sean, just got hired at Texas. Like the amount of coaches that are out there that are damn good coaches, but like don't stay where they're at and just are constantly on the move. I think similar to the transfer portal, like that's a massive part of college ball. And maybe that's an area where the players are going to be gone a lot faster because of the portal. But again, you look at some of these top tier coaches and they're at mid programs for at least a year or two. Maybe that's the difference. Because I know you and I talked a little bit too about how like coaching matters more this time of year.
Absolutely. Look at Chris Beard with Texas Tech.
Great example.
He's at Texas Tech, right? I want to make sure I don't misquote that. Oh no, he's at Ole Miss. I knew I was going to get those two confused.
But he wasn't forever at Ole Miss, though. That's a great example. No, that is a great example because we know Beard from the other place he was at.
He's had success in the tournament, and yeah, absolutely. Yeah, looking at a guy like Will Wade, I feel like that. I had that read. It was a year ahead of my time. Last year, that was my dumb pick of the year. I had McNeese going to the Sweet 16. And they didn't make it to the Sweet 16 this year either, but at least they won a tournament game this year.
Yeah.
I think looking at those teams, that's another good one, is teams that are those mid-majors that were knocking on the door that didn't quite get there, but a lot of the pieces remain. And this takes a little bit more of a deep dive than I'm willing to give it, is if you have players that have played in the tournament before, even if it's just one game and they lost, just having been there before and understanding that it is different, because there's more pressure, but also the arena, and some of the arenas are dead. It's a weird it's got to be a weird mental psychology for these guys, because that it's important, but it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a home game or even a road game. There's just like random. I'm sure you've been to an NCAA tournament game before, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a weird vibe. At least the one that I went to Duke Furman a couple of years ago, there was no energy in the building.
I have a really bad relationship with the NCAA and being in-house for these games in the first and second round specifically, Brandon. It's over a decade ago now, because I was at the University of Florida. They changed the rule to where you couldn't resell your tickets. You used to be able to go in, watch your team, leave the arena, and sell your ticket. And whoever you sold it to could go in and watch the next team. And I understand why the NCAA changed their ticket policy, because essentially they were like, we're not making any money, and people are getting these secondary and even sometimes third or fourth like round or use of tickets because people were leaving the arena. But what happened was you were able to fill the arenas for all the games because everybody would pay to go. Now you have to buy sessions. You buy 1 or 2 sessions, and once you leave, you're out. So if you are a Kentucky fan and you go in and watch Kentucky play and you're like, I'm good, I don't want to watch the next team. Well, those tickets aren't resold. Those seats aren't resold. So that's why I think it's emptier now. It wasn't always that way. And I think for the fans, it was obviously better. For the TV product and the players, it was better. But the NCAA wasn't making a dime on it. So they changed the policy. It's something that's bugged me for, again, over a decade now, because I used to take advantage of that. And I bought those session tickets before. But again, it's just different. Like it's just different. It's different. You sit there and then you're not as excited. Like I stayed for a full session, a half a session, the last time I went, but like I'm not amped about teams I don't care about, right? And that was before betting was legal. I don't think I've been in once because that's fairly new. But I think the NCAA changed their ticket policy, and I don't think it's set up well because you have to buy sessions. If you could buy single game sessions, I think that would be a game changer for the atmosphere.
Interesting. I've never heard it explained like that, but that's fascinating.
It drives me crazy.
I can't tell. Zoneheads bets. What could go wrong? Let's dig in. I have one for tonight. I'm going to take the Magic plus 4.5. We'll sprinkle on the money line. The Magic have the rest advantage against the Lakers. Season metrics, like net rating, have the team separated by 1/4 of a point. So way too much for the Lakers here. This line is set like there's some major injury on the Magic side, which there isn't. The line is set like the Magic are on the second night of a back-to-back. They had the whole weekend off. So just too much love for the Lakers because people love betting LA. I'm going to take the Orlando Magic tonight. I don't usually need much motivation to bet them at home when I'm going to be in the building for it, but we're going to do it anyway. And I'm going to take them. Now, I don't know if you have anything on your mind, but I also wanted to see if we wanted to take a plunge on anything in the Sweet 16. So go ahead. You tell me what's on your mind.
No, I think to kind of go back to the baseball side of it, even though we didn't talk a ton of MLB, I think the beginning of the season is a great time to kind of get in on the totals. And I always caution people to wait until the first weekend, maybe even a couple series, and then find some trends and try to ride them out. Whether it's teams that aren't good that just are losing, the White Sox last year. 2 years ago, the Rays obviously had such a strong start. They won like 17 in a row. I try to find teams early that have trends that kind of Vegas is going to take a while to calibrate, if that makes sense. So I don't really have a bet for you on the MLB side heading into this opening day weekend. But what I would tell people to do is try to keep an eye on, teams that maybe they hit all unders in opening weekend. Like that's probably going to be a trend that continues, especially early in the season. So I try to find some stuff in the first week of baseball that I can ride until mid-May. And I would just kind of give people, that'd be my advice heading into the baseball season.
How long does it need to happen for you to consider it a trend worth betting into, where you're not worried that the wheels will fall off the second you get on it?
I'd say confidently like a week and a half. I think that's what, 3 to 4 series, right? So I'd say confidently a week and a half. Obviously, I think you can start dipping your toes in that water after the first couple series. About the ones you feel good about. And again, that's not just teams and over-unders. Like find the players. Like if you got a guy that's put it over the wall 3 times in the first 4 games, like he's probably going to have a good year hitting, right? Like maybe not all home runs, but take his total bases, take, runs scored. I like to jump on those trends as early as I can in the first week and a half of the season, because I just think that there's a lot of money to be made. I've just noticed that Vegas takes a while to catch up to the baseball trends. And maybe that's why you do so well every year, because you're ahead of it, Brandon.
I guess. I think part of the reason that it works for me is I target unders. I'm looking for a specific bet. So I'm filtering everything else out. When you look at a board and you're just saying, I'm willing to bet anything today. What pops out at me? I think your mind goes in too many directions. And I wish that I could follow this advice in every other sport that I bet. I don't. In baseball, I'm so zeroed in on I am looking for a game that screams under to me. And I'm willing to, and I will filter everything out. I'll be on 5 games in a day. I'll be on 1. I'll be on none. I look for that. And now if I see something else that pops up within that research, I'll go and it's not like I'm only betting MLB unders.
Right.
But I start my research with looking for those and then other things pop out from there. So it was a good process last year. I was profitable the entire season on it. And hopefully that continues. You'll hear me crying on this podcast if that was a 1-year thing. As far as the Sweet 16 goes, a manageable line for the Florida-Maryland game, by the way, 6.5. Florida is a significantly better team, but Maryland is no slouch. Curious to see how that one goes as far as the betting splits. Arizona, I cannot get a read on. They're 9.5-point underdog against Duke. They probably get blown out. BYU have had no read on whatsoever. I think the one that I feel best about just off of first glance is I think Michigan is that team this year that had no business making a run, that is, because they have 2 bigs that people can't stop. And Auburn can be had. So I could see Michigan either keeping it close or winning.
Dusty May.
Dusty
FAU,
May.
Right?
There you go. That goes in line with what you're saying.
Bro, it's the whole Bruce Pearl, Tennessee. I could do this all day, baby. Like their former schools, it's insane. I don't know who's it. I got to go look. I don't know who's at Arizona now, but I think it's another one of those types of guys. Obviously, Duke isn't in the same situation because they're like a fraternity there. They just churn out guys that are Dukies. But like, yeah, man, it's wild.
All right, we appreciate you tapping in. We have a busy day ahead. Zach has new things on the horizon that at some point he'll tell all of you about. And keep up with all the stuff I have going on, zoneheadsmedia.com. If you want the podcast, if you want the partners, if you want the bets, they're all there, zoneheadsmedia.com. See you, Zach. See you, Zoneheads.